Hi everyone, welcome to my English world. Today we are really going to have a wonderful discussion about idioms and phrases which has been asked several times in our competitive examination sector. So in this session of video, I'm going to give you some sort of idioms which has been asked several times and which is very relevant and which is very significant to you. So let's roll. Don't waste your valuable time. Let's move on to. Okay, you ready? Yes. The first one is idiom. The first one, freshwater sailor. The word freshwater sailor, we can understand that a person who doesn't have any previous experiences. A person who doesn't have any previous experiences can be called as an inexperienced person. The very first idiom means inexperienced person. Freshwater sailor. So, this is a very relevant and very significant idiom which has been asked several times. So, you just have to remember that. Okay, the very first one is freshwater sailor. Inexperienced person. The second idiom is greenhorn. The idiom greenhorn, which also does have the same meaning that inexperienced person. So these two idioms are having same meaning, which means that inexperienced person. Which one? The freshwater sailor does have the same meaning, and the greenhorn does have the same meaning. Inexperienced person. A person who doesn't have any previous experience can be called as a person of greenhorn. A person greenhorn. A greenhorn, which means inexperienced person. The very first idiom, a freshwater sailor. We can understand for that particular idiom that a freshwater sailor. A freshwater sailor, which means inexperienced person. So both these two idioms are having the same meaning, that inexperienced person. We are moving to the third one. The third one is hairbreadth escape. Hairbreadth escape. Hairbreadth escape, which means narrow escape. Everyone says in Malayalam and everyone says in our mother tongue that Mudinariyekku rakshabettu ennu parayum. The word that means hairbreadth escape, which means a narrow escape. And the fourth one is Fabian policy. If you go in a government sector, in a government office, we might be having lots of problems and we might be having lots of struggles in one's life. And if you go in a particular office which has been run by the government, if you go there for a particular thing, the file doesn't go, the file doesn't move. It has been delayed deliberately, purposefully. The files over there will be delayed by the officers. Not every officer, but in certain areas, in certain offices, we might feel the same. So this one means that a Fabian policy, what does it really mean is delaying matters. A policy of delaying matters is Fabian policy. So keep that word in your mind, that a Fabian policy, what is a Fabian policy is? A Fabian policy is delaying matter. Policy of delaying matters. Delaying matters. The Fabian policy, the idiom means that the policy of delaying matters. So what does it mean by a freshwater sailor? It's an inexperienced person. The greenhorn, the idiom means that the same inexperienced person. The third one is hairbreadth escape, which means a narrow escape. The fourth one is Fabian policy. What do you mean by that word? A Fabian policy idiom means that the policy of delaying matters. Delay. Everyone, we feel that it's the same that of delaying, the policy of delaying matters. It's been a wonderful problem. It's been a so cautious and so serious problem for somebody else who are really going to have a certain struggles in one's life. We are moving to the fifth idiom, a big gun. A big gun. It doesn't mean that a person who is having a big gun. It doesn't mean that. A person who is coming with a big gun. It doesn't mean that. It means a big gun is an important person. A person of importance. A person of influence. A person who has the power of manipulation can be called as a person of, power. A person of influence. That person is called a big gun. He's a big gun, man. What do you mean by that? He's a big gun. He's a big gun. He's a big gun. What do you mean by that? A person of influence. A person who has a capacity, a person who has the power to manipulate each and every body out there in the society can be called as a person of influence. That meaning, the idiom of that particular word is begun. So begun, the word means a man who has the power of manipulate everybody else. So these are the 5 beautiful idioms. The very first one is, again I'm going to tell you that freshwater sailor. From this idiom you just have to understand that a freshwater sailor, a sailor who is just starting his journey in a fresh water. Actually, that's real sense. Okay, you can understand from that particular word that a freshwater sailor is an inexperienced person. The inexperienced person, in a single word, we can tell what novice. A person who doesn't have any previous experience can be called as a person, can be called as novice. A person who has a lot of experience, what should we call such a person? A person who has a lot of experiences in one's life, what should we call such a person? A person who is having a lot of experiences before, what should we call such a person? Veteran. What should we call that person? Veteran. The word veteran means a person who is having a lot of experiences in his life. Such a person is called as a veteran. So the word novice is just the opposite of veteran. Veteran, novice. A veteran, a person who is having a lot of experience. Novice, a person who doesn't have any previous experience. So these two idioms are having the same meaning, inexperienced person. The very first one is freshwater sailor and the second one is greenhorn. Both these two idioms are having the same meaning, that inexperienced person. What? Inexperienced person. The third one is hairbreadth escape. From that particular word, you can understand that what's really meant by that particular word, that particular idiom. Hairbreadth escape. It's a narrow escape. It's a narrow escape. It's a narrow escape. And the fourth one is Fabian policy. Very, very significant. And very, very rare. Fabian policy, which means a policy of delaying matters. Delay in matters. Delaying matters. That means Fabian policy. Fabian policy. The governments, the officials, the irrelevant, the irresponsible officers who is having such a character, a policy of delaying matters. Which means Fabian policy. And the fifth one is a big gun. Big gun. Which doesn't mean that a man who is having a big gun with him. It doesn't mean like that. Who can be called as a big gun? A person who is having a lot more power, a lot more influence, has a capacity to influence, has a capacity to manipulate, manipulation power. That person is called as a big gun. So this is this session and we are moving to the next session. Let's wait for that. To our next session. The sixth one is soft sock. Soft sock. We know that the real meaning of this particular word is sopping. We usually say that he's soap iduga അല്ലെങ്കിൽ flattery ചെയ്യുക എന്ന് പറയും. Flattery. It's a kind of sycophancy. And people used to do such things, and people who really do such things do not believe them. Okay, they're just pretending. They're telling them not the real fact of it. You just have to keep a distance from them. So that's good for your life. The soft sock, the very first word, not the first, the sixth one is soft sock, and which means flattery. The second word, uphill task, which really means that a difficult task. A task which is so difficult can be called as an uphill task. Hill, what does it really mean? That word hill is a hill, a mountain. It's an uphill task. It's an uphill task. Uphill task. So we just have to reach the top of the hill. It will be so difficult for us to reach the top of the mountain or the hill. So what do you mean by this particular idiom is an uphill task, which is a difficult task. A task which is so difficult can be called as an uphill task. The seventh idiom is uphill task, which means a task which is so difficult, a difficult task. And the eighth idiom we can have here, upper turn, upper turn, upper turn. people who belong to upper class, people who belong to the upper social class can be called as upper 10, which means aristocracy. You know the oligarchy, aristocracy, plutocracy. A government by the few is oligarchy, a government by the rich is plutocracy, and aristocracy is upper 10. Upper 10 means people who belong to higher social class and people who are having the power to manipulate, the power to govern are called as aristocratic people. Yeah, the next one is, the ninth one is pell-mell. It's a very cunning, it's a beautiful, and it's a very rare, it's a unique piece. The word pell-mell means confusion. A confusion. A confused situation, a puzzled situation, an ambiguous situation. Ambiguity. Ambiguous situation. Confused state. Puzzled state. The idiom pell-mell means confusion. Ambiguous. Ambiguity. A puzzled situation. The ninth idiom is pell-mell, which means confusion. Got it? The next one is kith and kin, which is known to everyone. I know that. So the kith kin idiom means relatives. Relatives. Kith and kin. So this is the end of today's session, today's video. I hope you enjoy. And today, I'm going to sign off. This is Nitin Surendran from My English World. Love you all. Bye.